All right, good afternoon, everyone. Please kindly confirm if you can hear me and, of course, if you can see me. We're about to kickstart the webinar, so please kindly confirm.
Yes, good afternoon. We can see you. Good afternoon. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I can hear you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so first off, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar on risk management. And my name is Maureen, and I work as a digital marketing manager at A4S. So basically, what we do at A4S is we are an audit, advisory, assessment, and assurance company. And I'll take that again: audit, advisory, assessment, and assurance company, as the name rightly implies, A4S. So basically what we do is we help organizations with management system audits, both internal and external. An example is the ISO 9001 for quality management, ISO 27001 information security management systems, and risk management, the one that we're looking at today, etc. Right. So another thing we do is that we provide independent assessments with regards to international best practice and frameworks, right? Like the ITIL, the COBIT, the CSR, that's the standard for corporate social responsibility, ISO 26000. So we are your trusted partner in this regard. So always feel free to reach out to us. And joining me on this call is Dr. Orlando Odejide. He's the managing partner and chief trainer at A4S. And then he's going to be taking us on an insightful journey on risk management. So I'd like for us to drop our emojis or our reactions in the chat section so that I know that we are following me, and just so that I know that you're excited about this. Also, just some house rules. Let's kindly maintain some decorum. As you're coming in, please just stay muted and then pay close attention. Thank you. All right, Doctor, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Maureen. It's great. Thank you, Bolaji, for clapping. Right. So indeed, we welcome you all. I know my face is not as nice looking as Maureen's face. I'm sure a lot of people will prefer that just go ahead and take this session. I mean, even I wanted to take this session. I like her face. I like her background. I wouldn't even be listening. I'd probably just be staring at her face, and I'm sure risk management will probably enter into my head just by staring at her. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way. So I welcome you all to this particular session. We've been doing it for quite a bit. We've done a couple of sessions prior to now, and this is the next in line with regards to these monthly webinars that we've been holding as it is. So some people have been consistent, some people have followed us all the way from the very first time we're going to do this all the way till now. So it's great to have everybody here. So I'll just jump straight into it. Please give me 1 minute and I'll share my screen. I will take this conversation up. So if you do have any questions, any thoughts, any opinion, because it's a 1 hour, 15-minute webinar, I wouldn't be able to stop in between. I just want to quickly go through the content. Also today, going to end up with two different should I say, one standard and one framework / best practice that we're going to try to go through in an hour. So that is a lot. I'm going to try to do so many things within the next 1 hour. So I'm going to just ask you, please drop your thoughts, your opinion, your questions, whatever that thing is, just drop it in the chat room. And once I am done with this particular session, I will go back into the chat room and then I can try to address some of these things. I also have a lot of my friends and should I say my colleagues, and some of them are even or some of them are even my seniors, so to speak. Some of them are my ogas. I mean, I have different people from different places on the call. I've got different people. I have Elsie here, who's based out of Kenya, and I know she also has loads of friends and cousins and colleagues who are all here. So it's a big meeting, and thank you very much, everybody, for being here and for attending. So let me just jump straight into it. Once again, please drop your questions, your thoughts, all that in the chat room while I just quickly go through this. I will try to make it quick. This is not a training session, and if it gets longer than an hour, 15, 20 minutes thereabout, most people have other things that they need to do. Some people are right in the middle of work. So I'm going to go through my slides very quickly. It's not a full training session. We'll also put this video on YouTube. This entire webinar, we'll put it on our YouTube channel. I'm sure Maureen will make that available to everybody. And we also have an assessment for everybody who has attended. We're going to send you a link for you to do some kind of ISO 31000 foundation exam, an accredited exam, ISO 31000. So it will be great for everybody to bear that at the back of their minds. Once you're attending, you get the opportunity to pass your ISO 31000 foundation. So let me go straight into this conversation, and I will go through this very quickly in the next couple of minutes, as the case may be. So once again, welcome. I would have sung that song, "Welcome, Daddy Shuki, welcome," but yeah, it's okay. It's great to have everybody here. So this is a joint piece of work between Training Nights and A4S. So A4S will provide the independent audit and assessment services, while Training Nights provides a lot of the training services. So enterprise risk management is a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a big global deal. And it's a corporate governance issue. Are we all together? It is a corporate governance issue. It's not an issue that organizations can put under the carpet. I think it was last month, or I can't even remember, we did something on corporate governance, ISO 37000. We did something on ISO 37000, and as part of that is risk management. So this enterprise risk management is something that every organization needs to put in place. It is not a joke. It's not something people should ignore. It's not something people need to just look aside and just say, oh, it's a nice to have. No, it is not a nice to have. Enterprise risk management is a must have. It is indeed a must have for organizations. And I mean, so in your own organization and anybody you're working with and anybody you're going to be looking to work with, it's compulsory that they must put something in place for enterprise risk management. It's not a nice thing. It's not something that they'll say, oh, we think we should have it, or maybe we shouldn't. It is a must have. So you should be having this conversation everywhere. You should be having this conversation with your friends, with your family, with different people that say that, you know what, enterprise risk management is not something we can play with. It's such a big deal. It really tells whether an organization is being run appropriately. It's the key criteria to determine if an organization is being run appropriately, and you can't just ignore it. You shouldn't, and you can't ignore it as a thing. In my lifetime, as part of the work that we do, so for the people who are all ISO gurus on the call, there's something called 6.1, which talks about the actions to address risks and opportunities. And that particular clause is in every standard, 9001, 20,000, 27. It doesn't matter what that standard is. The clause is the clause is there, 6.1. The actions to address risks and opportunities. Just 1 minute before we got on this call, I was no, not 1 minute, about 20 minutes before we got on this call, I was with a client, and that client, they were doing business continuity, and they had mixed up 6.1 in the business continuity standard with the 8.2.3, which is meant to be looking at the business the risk tied to BIAs in comparison to the broad risks in 6.1. So it's a big deal. It's an issue. It is something every organization needs to really look at. And there are many standards and many frameworks that help you to address this particular thing. And we're going to just go through about 2 of them today. We can't go through any and everything, but there are many of them. But today we just have a look at two of them, ISO 31000, and the one I like the best, and I have seen and worked with and implemented and reviewed and assessed many risk management frameworks in my lifetime. I have done that many times for different organizations. The one that I find that is really detailed amongst all the ones is the Axelos Mor. Everybody talks about COSO, especially in banking and financial services, but I tell you, COSO is not even as deep as the Axelos Mor. And a lot of people, maybe because it's British, a lot of people don't even know of the existence of this particular standard, this ISO 31. This Axelos Mor. A lot of people don't even know about its existence, but we're going to look at it today. So today we're going to look at 31,000, and we're also going to look at Mor, Axelos Mor, the British version of this whole thing. So let me start here. This is a global conversation. Everywhere in the world, somebody's going to be talking about VUCA factors. And this is not a theoretical concept. There's a client who did some work for this year, I'm sure it's this year, where we drew out a template during the workshop to say, how will you talk about VUCA for your own organization? This is not a theoretical piece of work. This is not a theoretical session. Risk management is what it is that I do within the ISO standards and even outside of the ISO standards. So it's not like it's a nice to have, or it's just something that is great to put on. No, it is not just great to put on. This is something every organization should be doing, and we do it literally on a daily basis, right? So how do you drop the VUCA factor? So what is volatile in your own organization? Every well-run company should be putting together a document called their risk forecast for 2024. In reality, for some organizations, actually for most organizations who have a risk proximity, there's something called risk proximity of 6 months. As at 1st of July, the risk forecast for 2024 should be ready as at the 1st of July, because risk is always ahead. And that's one big global conversation, the difference between risk and issues. 90% of the organizations that I see everywhere, all those organizations, they mix risks and issues. They mix them together. In fact, some people call it the risk and issue log. Some organizations, they call it the risk and the issue log, and it shouldn't be. That's not how this is done. That's not how it should be done. So VUCA is very important, and please note these things. Your organization should define its own risk proximity, number one. Your organization should have its own risk forecast for the year ahead, well ahead of time, and ideally 6 months ahead. Maybe if it's not 6 months, then at least it should be at least 3 months ahead. Number three, risk is always in the future. It's an uncertainty that is in the future. It is not something that has transpired or that is happening now or that is about to happen. Risk is in the future. Once again, everybody needs to bear that at the back of their minds. Everybody needs to know that risk is in the future. So VUCA does apply to every organization. Volatility, changes that can occur much more often than before. The volatile economy, volatile environment, volatile foreign exchange. uncertainty, all sorts of uncertainties that are tied to organizations, right? So the amount of uncertainty that, and that's what risk is about. And that's why even in the new version of the MOR, this uncertainty conversation is there. In the new version of the MOR, this uncertainty conversation is in there. And in fact, the definition of uncertainty, both from the definition of risk, both from ISO 31000 and from Axelos MOR, the word uncertainty is smack in the middle. So what are the uncertainty factors for your own organization? What makes your own organization what is going to contribute to the complexity of your own organization? These are very deep things. These are very deep questions that you already need to go to think about in your own organization. Working with a client, they're looking to do some things around AI, but everybody's just looking at, and this is a bank. And when we're talking about AI, they were talking about ChatGPT. And I'm like, okay, ChatGPT is great, but you've got to think beyond ChatGPT. We're talking about how you're going to use artificial intelligence to improve your customer service, to improve your customers' satisfaction, how you're going to use artificial intelligence to improve your marketing as an organization, how you're going to use artificial intelligence to improve your decision-making and risk management processes. This is beyond just trying to make presentations, because now once everybody can do a presentation using ChatGPT and they can summarize a book, they'll say that's AI. Yes, okay, it is AI, but my point is, for corporate institutions, what you're thinking about is way beyond that. Finally, is also the ambiguity factors that affect your own organization and how do they affect you. I can speak about these things all day. I can show all sorts of templates and all sorts of approaches to it, but I'm very mindful of time. I never really want to stay too long on these webinars, just so that people don't get tired and they just start to leave the webinar in itself. So I wouldn't try not to say too much, but you've got to go back to your own organization to really think about your VUCA factors. I also like to put this up. Somebody's always making fun of me. They said, oh, Orlando, you and dashboards. I'm like, well, dashboards are very important. I think they're very important to everybody. It would be great to have great dashboards for almost any and everything that people do. So especially if you're a corporate institution, it would be great for you to have appropriate dashboards for whatever it is that you do as an organization. So risk management, imagine if your organization has, should I say, live dashboards with validated data. Can you imagine? If your organization has live dashboards with validated data, like you can trust the data that is being reported from the risk dashboards. And I'll tell you that very few organizations have things like this, very few. Not a lot of organizations have things like this. And once again, that's very important that you think about this for your own organization. And I always encourage organizations that I work with, that I audit, that I see, that they should try as much as humanly possible to ensure that they've got great dashboards. It's something that I do all the time. Tell them that, imagine if you can report your dashboard and your CEO and the executives can see a live dashboard. It's almost like putting up a screen in their offices and they can see validated dashboards relative to risk areas in the organization. I mean, people are going to clap for you. Most people are not here. Most people are not at this level. They don't have all this in place, and definitely that is a concern in certain instances. So once again, we can talk about dashboards all day. Some people are doing very well with their Power BI. A few organizations that I've seen in Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, and a couple of other countries, a couple of the companies that I have seen, they have a risk management software that drives this conversation, but not a lot of people have risk management software. A lot of people they don't have risk management software, and they're not really thinking about it. But it is something that I do think that organizations should think about, organizations should have, and organizations should use this to drive maturity relative to risk management too. So go back and say, how can we have great dashboards that give us the real-time status, not hidden, right? People can see it. It's on the intranet, it's on the certain portal, all the right people in the organization, they can see validated real life dashboard about risk. I would like to see that. I don't get to see that a lot. So I do implore all of you, please go look at ISO 31000. It's a great standard. It can be applied from many perspectives. I've seen it applied at different levels. So enterprise, departmental, project, process. Of course, it's compulsory with regards to all management systems. It can also be applied at the technology, scenario-based, and people perspective. Once again, people don't really think about their risk from this perspective. And I've written different areas and different approaches to looking at risk management, end-to-end, enterprise, departmental, project, different areas as it is. So it can help you from an enterprise perspective. It can also help from different other perspectives. So it has broad applicability. The same thing with the Axelos MOR is got broad acceptability. Okay. If I move on very quickly, so I've tried to summarize ISO 31000 on the page. It's got some terminologies. It's got principles, about 8 principles, about 8 key terminologies. Terminologies are always a concern. I've reviewed different enterprise risk manuals in my lifetime. And in reviewing all those enterprise risk manuals, in a lot of them that, I'll see, they will say impact in one place. They will call it something else in another portion of the documentation. They'll call it consequence. They will call it events. They will call it incident. They will call it likelihood. They will call it possibility. I've seen they'll call it treatment in one portion of the manual. They'll call it control in another portion of the manual. But for you to have a great manual, you should it's compulsory that you agree on your terminology. So even the standard gives its own terminology. There's no gun to your head that you must follow through with the terminologies from the standard, but it gives that. Another thing that is missing for most organizations when I've reviewed the risk manual is the principles. These principles they don't just take them into consideration. These principles just don't exist for a lot of organizations, and that is a huge concern, that you don't have these principles in your own organization. In your manual, you have not defined any principles. Nothing is clearly stated in your manual. So how is that going to work? So that's something you should also go look at. And those are the things that make the adoption of the standard a bit difficult. A lot of people don't take these things into keen consideration. What are the principles that you've adopted in your own organization as it relates to enterprise risk management? Also, is apart from the principles, is also the framework. So the standard has got a certain framework for risk management, and that helps and that works. You would also have to implement all the controls. When I look the requirements in the standard, about 150 requirements for an organization that wants to look at the standard appropriately. So it takes quite a bit for you to be able to get this done. It's about 150 requirements. With regards to the principles, I think they're about 55. And with regards to the framework, I think they're about 66. And then some other, about 150 different things that you need to do and have evidence that you put those things in place. So as small as the standard is and as quick as it is, it does contain a lot. So it's the principles, it's the framework, and it is also the processes. So the standard is very clear about its processes. So communication, context assessment, treatment, and a couple of other things. It is very precise with regards to the process in itself. So pretty much this is the whole standard. Of course, the standard is very small. It's probably it's less than 20 page, it's less than a 20-page document. But to get that 20-page document right, you will need quite a bit of experience and expertise to be able to do it right and to be able to do it appropriately as it is. So once again, you also need to be able to use different techniques, different approaches. I have a page at the back. There's something called ISO 31010. Anybody can go look at it. You can look it up. ISO 31010. It contains a lot of techniques. I've got a slide somewhere in here. So, of course, if you're going to do a 5-day type training, we're also going to go through those techniques. And when we also do the assessment for organizations, we also will check whether they have put these techniques in the staff of the organization have these techniques, they know these things, and they have put these things in place. Okay. I'll try to move very quickly. I'm worried about time. Okay, so once again, risk and opportunities. Of course, you and I, when we talk about risk, the thing that goes through our minds is the negative side of things. And the negative side of this whole thing, they've called it threats. They've called the negative side of it, they've called it threats. So I know you and I think about risk only from the negative, which is the threat. So most of the things you and I call a risk register is actually a threat register in reality. So most 90% of the time, 99% of the time, our risk register is in reality a threat register, not really a risk register, because a real risk register would also contain another portion of it that talks about opportunities, because the uncertainties can be both positive and negative. But of course, that's not how you and I look at these things. And of course, all they've given definitions around these things. Risk management, stakeholder management, risk source, events, consequence, likelihood, and control. And then, of course, if it was a training class or something very extensive, or we're doing an assessment, we will consider your definitions, your terminologies as it's defined in your enterprise risk manual as an organization. Like ISO 31000 comes with this particular diagram. Maureen, can you please help me mute that person? Right, okay, okay, can you please mute that person? All right, so ISO 31000 comes with the diagram, but I don't like the diagram. It's just a nice looking diagram. I don't like it at all. That is why I have created this. This is much simpler for me to look at and to understand. I don't know how people think that showing me something as a wheel of some sort helps my comprehension and understanding. Maybe I went to night school or something like that. But for me, this is way clearer than following through the other approach. So 3, 4, 5, and 6 is the whole standard, which is also what it is that they've tried to represent in here. So you see clause 4, clause 5, and clause 6, but I don't like this, and that's why I created mine. This is also another conversation, how you do your risk rating in the organization. Some people use 3x3, some people use 4x5, some people use 5x5. However, it doesn't matter. For me, I like things being simple. Low, medium, high works for me, but of course, I also understand the disadvantage of that, because that means too many things will fall between those buckets. But for me, this is a rather complex, especially if you're still using manual approaches, or your Excel is not really an advanced Excel document. And for also people to understand, people won't really be able to remember when it's this broad. They would say, what is level 1? What is level 2? You know, for me, I think everybody, when you say something is low, people kind of know that it means that it's between 0 and 40. When you say something is medium, it's between 40 and 70. And when you say something is high, it's between 70 and 100. You don't need a lot of training for people to clearly understand what it is that you're saying. And also remember the global red, amber, and green, the rack status. Everybody knows what that is. So everybody knows that red, it's not good. Yellow, it's in between. Green, it is good. But I've also seen that this is a big conversation in a lot of places with regards to risk rating. So let every organization, let every man determine what is an appropriate risk rating for their own organization. So this whole webinar is really how you go back to get risk management done in your organization. Of course, I know some people are here just to get more knowledge so that when they relocate to Canada and all that, they can get great jobs. That's also good. But my focus as a person, really, it's about how do you get better as an organization with regards to risk management. That really is my focus. And I've identified some key roles. And I like the RASCI model. A lot of people don't know that there's a model called RASCI. who is responsible, who is accountable, who are the people who support risk management, who needs to be consulted, and who needs to be informed. So this is critical. An organization needs to have this. They need to have somebody head of risk, chief risk officer, and it could even be in a small organization. It can even be the head of operations as a part of his additional role. But it's good to have some level of independence. Well, this is really what Rasky interprets into for organizations. Communication is a big deal. If you're doing risk management, I've gone to an organization, everything about risk management is a secret. In fact, the risk management policy and the manual, nobody in the organization had ever seen it. Everybody is unaware. The head of risk feels like, oh, he doesn't show people the risk manual, it doesn't show the people the risk process. Even the risk register is a secret, it's just him. So he keeps it to his chest, he goes for executive meetings, shows it to them, walks out of the place, tells everybody in his office not to speak to anybody in the organization. I don't think that's how risk management is meant to be practiced. In fact, I know that's not how it's meant to be practiced in reality. So this is a big deal, how you practice risk management, how you communicate, because I mean, you will see, go to most organizations, go online and put HSBC risk management process, you will see it. Most organizations, their risk management is not an internal thing. They must report to the regulator and even to the public some portions of the risk work that they do. Go to Barclays Bank and type Barclays Bank risk management briefing or whatever that thing is. Go open a browser and type Coca-Cola risk management policy. You will see these things even on their website. So it's not a secret. It's not something we ignore, we hide from everybody. It is something everybody really should know about in the organization. I've got this series of steps. Once again, I am very worried about time. I cannot go through everything here. But I took this extract directly from Mr. Muiwa and Margaret and Elsie's training document. So a lot of these things are the things we explore in a 3-4 day training type thing. And here I outlined what I think every organization should do when it comes to risk management. They need to choose a methodology. They need to get their people trained, and that's everywhere. They need to sit with the board, do awareness sessions. They need to communicate whatever policy. They need to develop and communicate the policy. They need to develop and communicate the strategy. And in that strategy, we'll talk about things like appetite, tolerance, and threshold. They also need to develop and populate the risk register in itself, the frequency of risk review meetings, populate the issue register. You can see here, I've outlined that you must have a risk register and an issue register, develop the audit report and the audiences. So, I mean, it's not a secret. It's not what you hide away in a cage to do. Also, we are risk people. We're not auditors. So risk people should not work like auditors. Risk people are there to help the organization, to point out that there might be an issue here and to work with the business to ensure that those things don't materialize. Risk people are people of the future. Auditors are people of the past. And I know all the auditors on the call are going to scream. No, auditors are people of the past. Their focus is what has been put in place, what has transpired, historical data. Risk people are people who are very proactive. They're projecting into the future. What can go wrong in 2024? And what do we need to put in place so that those things don't go wrong? There's a sharp differentiation between somebody who has a risk brain and somebody who is an auditor. Audit is based on historical evidence. Audit is not postulating, it's not predictive, but risk is completely predictive. It's about being proactive. Anyway, so we can have this conversation all day. This is as it is, but I've tried, I mean, and this is a good slide. I put this, I mean, I've written this out of my own experience and say that, you know what, these are the kinds of things you need to put in place. And you can take a screenshots from some of these things. You need to get trained, you need to populate your issue register, you need to review the risk management ecosystem, and you need to continually improve your risk management posture relative to all the things that are here. So I think if most people follow this, maybe I'll go patent this at some point in time. Maybe I'll go patent this thing. But I think if you follow through with the 12 things that I have written here, I think your organization will do well from a risk management perspective. If you follow through with my 12-point agenda, so to speak, or my 12-point recommendation here, all the way from choosing the methodology, getting trained, delivering board and management awareness, and all the way to the end here. I think if you follow through with this, you should be fine from a risk management perspective. Who's that one that is on the road? All right. Also, I'll put some KRIs. Oof. I'll put some KRIs here. God, can you help me mute that person that's at the bus stop? Okay, good. I'll put some KRIs here, that you can use. How many people are trained? How many experts do you have? Do you have a risk management app? No, hold on. Sorry, 1 second. I think I missed that. Yeah, so the number of business objectives assured, number of review meetings that you have, number of risks that were captured by area, number of risks that were averted. Most people don't have any kind of evaluation for risk management. They don't have any form of evaluation. How do you measure if risk management is working in your own organization? How do you measure that? How do you measure that risk management is working in your own organization? And this is key. So I put a couple of KRIs here that I mean, all these I wrote to myself. So it's not like this ones that I didn't copy from anywhere. These were those things that I wrote in one client or the other. And I've also put some improvement initiatives. So I think these are the key things. These are great improvement initiatives for your own organization. What are the things that you're doing in your organization to ensure that risk management is being appropriately built and entrenched and adopted in your organization? There's a huge conversation around the kinds of options that you decide to choose in your own organization. I can't have this conversation now, but every organization, and this is very confusing because in your risk manual, you must say that, in this organization, accept means this, retain means this, reduce means this for us. And it must be clear in your risk manual. And this is where this is one area people struggle with. They just model everything up. One risk register in one department uses tolerate, treat, terminate. Enterprise people will use accept this. ISO people will use this. Another department, RCSA, will use something else. And it's just a mess. Everything is just everywhere. So in your risk manual, you must be clear. You must declare to people. You must clarify what is acceptable to use and what people should not use within the organization in itself. Also, there's also the conversation around your maturity. You can do your own internal assessment for maturity, but it's also very important that you get an external person like ourselves, like Maureen and myself and Bolaji and all the great people who work with me, Larry's of this world, to give you an independent opinion of your risk management. Where are you? And we have methodologies and benchmarks that we'll use to arrive at, okay, you're at basic, you're at defined, you're at improved, or whatever it is. Most organizations really are at basic. Most organizations, small to medium-sized businesses, insurance companies, most of them are at basic. Right, and I'm not throwing anything. Is because some people think that in insurance they think enterprise risk. Some, let me not say all. Some think that enterprise risk means the risk tied to transactions. What is the risk tied to premium and claim? That's not what this is about. This is looking at the whole business, right? So we can give you an independent opinion. You need to have some kind of risk process, and this needs to be aligned to your register. I picked this up from one of my clients. They had a risk register that was developed by somebody else, a risk process that was developed by somebody else. We already said it, Mr. Oye, please put your questions in the chat room. We said it at the very beginning. I will come back and address a lot of these questions. Let me quickly just go through the content of this, but I will add as much as possible. And I have, once again, I have a lot of experts on the call. I know the people on this call that know almost way more than I do when it comes to this area of work. So please put your questions in the chat room. I will address them. So I saw a client that had a risk management process that deviated completely from their risk register. Or like saying, many clients that I've seen that their risk registers deviate from how the risk manual has been populated. So when you do an alignment between the two things, you find out that it was almost like one was done by somebody or one was done by somebody else, and those two things are not married. So that's a big deal. You need to have some kind of marriage between your risk management process / manual, and your register in itself. And of course, you need to have all these kinds of things. I will not spend a lot of time here. If you're still at the level where you're using Excel documents, that's great. It's not bad. It's a great place to start. Some people have gone beyond that. Not everybody's at the Excel level. Some of my clients, maybe they're even on the call, they've bought tugboats and I've forgotten the name of the other application. And some people have bought the application from Galvanize, now called Diligence, which is I've forgotten the risk bond. Yeah, so different people have bought different things. And some people are not using Excel any longer. But of course, if you're going to ever buy software, you have to really think about it. Does the software make sense? Does it address your issues and things like that? But if you're still at the level of Excel, which is fine, you just need to make sure that you get this right. You get your Excel document appropriately designed, appropriately populated, and should I say updated. So it's not just to populate it, it's also to update it at the right time. And of course, this is everybody's great sin. They don't have an opportunity to register, or even if they decide to lump it with their risk register, they still need to be able to differentiate. There must be a column that says this is an opportunity, this is the date we plan to activate it, when we will ever take advantage of the opportunity or not. And you always see, especially when we're auditing clients, all of them have a threat register that has 50 items or 40 items, and an opportunity register that has 1 item or 2 or 3. So it means that most people, our brains are being trained to be very negative rather than also being positive, to think about opportunities for new products, opportunity for process improvement, opportunity for new customer acquisition, opportunity for expansion of the business and things like that. I was talking to somebody about, the business opportunities across the whole of East Africa, and I have my friends Elsie and my colleagues Elsie and Mercy on the call, and they know all these things that is even possible across the whole of East Africa and how people can expand their businesses, but most people never really think about opportunity management. I'll move on very quickly. I don't want to spend all my time talking about risk registers. I put this together. I'll say to somebody, I said, well, every intervention to fix something is not a lot. They're just about 6 or 7 things. And so I put this to somebody, I said, see, everything to fix something is not, to address a risk is not a lot of things. It's either you address something from a governance perspective, from a leadership perspective, from a people perspective, from a policy, procedure, or process perspective, from a system perspective, from a service, maybe using service providers or something that's got to do with maybe admin, logistics, and things like that. And so I tell people that everything you want to do to address a risk is no more than these 7 things. It's not. Everything you want to do to address something, these are the broad categories. So if I was designing an Excel document, I can say category of control or category of treatment. It would always fall under one of these 7 things. And of course, you can also see that I've lumped a lot of things together: IT, policy, procedure, processes, the use of external service providers, and maybe things around admin, logistics, resources, and maybe even environmental control. Somebody said, what about equipment? I said, I'll put equipment somewhere under number 5 in addition to number 5. And then you can have a treatment register that has the treatment ID, the treatment name, who will implement the control, when will it be done, who will do it, and things like that. So once again, these are all extracts from our training. If we're doing a training class, we'll design these things, we'll walk through them together, we'll populate some of them and think through them properly. I'm running out of time. This is the essence of risk management. I think we've spoken about this enough. I wrote this. It's the fact that, it's about thinking about the future. What can go wrong? So once again, as an organization, you need to be fixated on the year 2024. What can go wrong for our business in the year 2024? What can go wrong in the year 2024 for our business? You're meant to be heavily focused on what can go wrong in the year 2024. And that's what risk management is, so that you and I can address it. If all your staff are going to resign, if all your staff are going to relocate, if all your staff are going to work for the competitor, if all your systems will expire, if all your subscriptions might expire, if the dollar becomes to naira, becomes 1,000, or in Ghana it becomes to 115, or whatever that thing is, you need to start to really think about it. And this is really about getting the company to do that. And that's why your risk approach cannot just be threats. You also have to think about opportunities. Bukola is on the call here, and we're talking about, can we use blockchain to enhance the work? Can we use artificial intelligence to enhance learning? Can we use artificial intelligence to enhance digital marketing? Can we use artificial intelligence to enhance training delivery? There's a company, they used to use images from stock images or something, and they kept on having all sorts of issues. And now they stopped using that. They just create AI-based images for everything that they're doing. And I was reading about it some weeks ago. So that's what risk management is. It should help you have a great 2024. That is the idea behind great risk management, at least for organizations. This page is from a standard everybody called ISO 31010. So you see that it's not just about 31,000. You also need another standard, a supporting standard called 31010. And that standard has got all these techniques. And this is a lot of techniques. This is a lot of techniques that are here. You can see 10 plus what? 10 plus 6, 16, 21, 21 plus another 5, about 26, 28, 30, 32, 38, for about 44 there about techniques that are here. And people, so the entire risk management department should have, if not just one person, but everybody in the department, or at least the department, people should have all these skills. And this is a big deal. Some of them are very mathematical. Some of them you have to use tools like Minitab to do them thereabout. So this is a supporting document to ISO 31000. It's called the 31010 standard that contains the techniques that the people who say they do risk management should have, and also the kinds of things that your software, if you use a software, your software has a lot of these techniques inbuilt into them. A lot of software have these techniques inbuilt into them. Are we good? So if I had time, I would have asked everybody to please tell me the techniques they feel they're familiar with and the ones they are not familiar with. All right, I'm done with that. Let me quickly go to Axelos, Axelos MOR, and we've been doing MOR for about a decade, thereabout. Muiwa and I and Margaret and we've been doing MOR for about a decade, but this is the new version. This is brand new. I think it came out last year, so it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's updated. They've improved this significantly from what it used to be as at today. So this is MOR version 4, and I tell you, I can say that I'm an expert when it comes to I'm a global expert when it comes to 5 different risk management methodologies. But of all the 5, including 31, the ISO standards, including the ones from NIST, including COSO, but I can tell you, we've even done Basel 3 for an organization, done risk management completely tied to Basel 3, but I can tell you that MOR for me is the clearest of all of them. Unfortunately, it's not very popular. A lot of people don't know about it. They don't even know of its existence. But it is the hidden secret. And I'll go through it very quickly, once again, because of time, very mindful of your time. In my usual manner, I have summarized the entire thing into a page, right? Somebody taught me this about 20 years ago. No, maybe, yeah. I say that you have to have a 1-page. I worked with a gentleman. He says everything you want to say, you have to be able to say on the page. And I've learned this a long time ago. If I want to articulate something to an audience, before I start to go into the details of it, I should articulate it on the page. And so the whole documentation, 300-page, almost 400-page document, I've tried to itemize it here. The introduction, some definitions in there, conversations around principles. Remember, we talked about principles in 31,000. Here you're also seeing principles. So the principles there, they're also principles here. And the principles kind of align. So there's an alignment indeed between 31,000 and Axelos MOR version 4. Also here you have perspectives, but there they did not talk about perspectives, but here they've spoken about perspectives, about people, about the 9 elements of the process life cycle. Remember, there's also process in that one, and there's some form of alignment between the process in 31,000 and the process here. And here, they've given templates and guidelines with regards to the kinds of documentations that you should have. So that's what the whole thing is. In the usual manner of the world, they like to put these beautiful things there. I think things are very silly. I don't think you should have things like this. I think they're nice for visual, for, as from a design perspective, maybe the Richards of this world, who is our brand manager, this might make sense to him, but from a learning perspective, I'm not sure you can learn from this circle. So instead of using a circular approach, I would rather use something like this. Even COBIT has got a complex circle like that for the implementation guide. I don't know how these circles make sense, but as I said, maybe it's me, maybe it's not them, maybe it's from me, but I think putting things in tables is easier. So in the documentation, they've advised a lot of organizations to have a strategy in place. And of course, they've also told them to use, balance scorecard, which is my favorite strategy model and business model canvas. And the risk management needs to look at risk all the way from the strategy of the organization. And this is a big conversation, as in talking about strategy, balance scorecard in itself, and aligning it to risk management, and ensuring that the risk people can then look at the risk of the strategy not being executed appropriately. Now that's a big deal. The strategy of the risks not being achieved or executed appropriately, and that's a big deal, right? Further to that, they've also put something here on SWOT analysis. Please give me a minute. All right, so they've also put something here around the risk management, looking at the SWOT of the organization and giving an opinion with regards to the SWOT of the organization. Now, these are not things that were even in the old version, and you won't even find these things in any other methodology. Saying risk needs to look at strategy, and risk needs to document the risk around the strategy ever not happening or being executed to time and to quality. Further to that, a strategy should come up with the SWOT, but risk should look at the risk around that SWOT not being correct, not being accurate, and not being, should I say, achievable for the organization. Now, this is not common. This is a big deal. It's not common. It's only in this Axelos MOR version 4 that I've seen this clearly identified. So, I mean, they put all these things in there. What is risk, use of risk management, corporate governance and risk management. I said this at the very beginning, and focus on risk and challenges of applying risk management. They've also put the definitions, some definitions in there. Risk, I like this one. There's loads of definitions in there. There are too many definitions in there, but I like this one. Risks, risk exposure, risk management, and what does an issue mean? So please go home knowing that there's a difference between risk and an issue. And ordinarily, you should have both a risk register and an issue register. Ordinarily, you should have both a risk register and an issue register. I couldn't bear to type this out. I just took it directly from the material. Why use risk management? I think you and I know these things. There's no point spending a lot of time talking about why an organization should implement or should have risk management. I really, so every organization should use risk management and should have it and put it in place. They also have a definition for enterprise risk management. I don't want to read it to you, and this is not a training class. I cannot break all these things down to the right level as it is. But yeah, this is their definition. And I like this broad definition. Look at it: culture, capabilities, practices. But it started with culture. In ISO 9001, it talks about risk-based thinking. risk-based thinking, and he says that risk-based thinking belongs to everybody, especially managers in the organization. Risk-based thinking, thinking about threats and opportunities for operational processes. So I like it. I really like the definition. And that once again, that's why I say that for me, this Axelos Mor is always great. I enjoy organizations to look at the possibility of adopting this particular standard. These are the principles here. Great principles. Remember, we saw principles in 31,000. There are also principles in here. I think if any organization can combine both 31,000 and this MOR version 4, I think they will have optimal risk management. But hiring risk management consultants and auditors and assessors is not cheap. If you go to anybody who really understands risk management to help you build the manuals, to help you set it in place, set it up appropriately, it's not a cheap endeavor. The internal organization also has to have a lot of commitment to wanting to do this and to do it right. But these are the principles inside of Axelos, the MOR version 4, management of risk. It has existed for a long time. It's just not very popular in these parts as it is. I mean, back then in the UK, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, I mean, when I used to do these things there, this was a big deal, especially for governments and things like that. They also have this thing called perspectives. That means risk from a strategic perspective, from a portfolio, program, project, product, and even from an operational perspective. It's deep, because when you really want to think about risk management from these perspectives, it is very deep. Oh, and they're very prescriptive. That's a good thing about this. While ISO 31000 gives you general requirements and things like that, Axelos MOR is extremely prescriptive. It tells you specifically things that you need to do and you need to put in place. It's not ambiguous at all. It is not ambiguous at all. It is extremely prescriptive. And he also talks about people, breaks them down into different areas, stakeholders, decision bias. In our normal training, we talk about biases. People have all sorts of biases towards things. He also talks about culture, competence of people, the risk managers who are great at what they're doing and who know what it is they're doing, by and large, and broadly and deeply speaking, so to speak. And of course, I like this attitude, knowledge, skills, and experience, which is how they want to look at competence more than just whether you have knowledge or skills or experience. They also want to check out your attitude. Then there's a process life cycle. This whole process life cycle, the 9 steps within their own process. Remember that ISO 31000 also has its processes. So it's almost like the requirements is in 31000, but the answer is in Axelos MOR version 4. Really, that's it. Like the requirements are there, but the answers are here. So and each of this, it now speaks. I mean, that's where this now goes into some excruciating details. It takes each of the 9 in the process circle and now breaks it down into purpose, objectives, activities, techniques, document to support each one, and the focus on key roles for each process. So it explains these 6 things relative to each of the processes. It is broad, it is deep, it is wide. It takes each of the processes and explains these 6 things tied to each one of them. It's a big deal, right? And it also gives some clear recommendations in terms of what kinds of risk documentation should an organization maintain. Everybody, it's very prescriptive and clear around both the title of the document and the content of the document. So it's not just the title, but also the content of the risk documentation that organizations should have. As I rightly said, it looks like the requirements are in 31,000, but the answer and the guidelines and the way to approach it is inside of Axelos MOR version 4. I can tell you one real reason why most people struggle in terms of the maturity of their risk management is that they have not following MOR version 4. An organization that we have, I know that they probably have some of their representatives on this call. They're based in Abuja and they're a national organization. The reason why their risk management process in that organization is as mature as it is that they are one of the very few organizations that have adopted both ISO 31000 and Axelos Mor, but they did version 3, which isn't far from this, but they still have some improvements tied to this. And everybody goes to that organization and truly admits that they have a mature risk management process department in their organization. This is key. So it tells you about the kinds of documentation, reports, metrics, response plans, contingency plans, and all sorts of other things tied to risk in itself. Yeah, this is also directly from the documentation. It gives you these techniques. Remember, I showed you the techniques tied to ISO, everybody. Remember that I showed you these techniques. This one, from the standard ISO 31010, about 40-something techniques. Most people don't take these techniques into consideration. Do the team members and the staff, do they have these techniques? Do they know these techniques? Do they have these skills as a department? So those ones have their own techniques, but here, they also specified some techniques. And while that documentation has about 44, they have specified what they call about 35 different techniques. And one of the things we'll do is to tell everybody that which of these techniques do you have? Which of them can you boast of? Which of them, when you hear things like Johari window, somebody will go and check, what does Johari window mean? Swiss cheese model. What does Swiss cheese model mean? They have all sorts of things. Horizon scanning. What does horizon scanning mean? Number 22, prompt lists. What is prompt list? What does that mean? And they are saying that everybody who is a risk management professional should have to know these 35 techniques. Tough, huh? Right? Tough, huh? So yeah, pretty much as it is, right? I started at exactly in my time zone. I started 1 hour 10 minutes 1 hour ago, and I started around 10 minutes past 12 Nigerian time. Where I am is already 3 o'clock or something like that. So I'm about to round this up. Of course, MOR also has the foundation. This new version has foundation and the practitioner exam. Those ones you have to speak to Margaret Miwa and Elsie, and that's it. So when it comes to the risk audit and assessment, you can speak with the beautiful lady who started this session today, Maureen, my boss. And when it comes to the training services, you can speak with Mr. Miwa in Nigeria, Margaret in Ghana, and our dear lady Elsie and her colleague Mercy, who are seated in Kenya. All right, people, pretty much that's it. I won't bore you too much. I'll look at the questions now. This is what I've been doing. I think in April, I did corporate social responsibility. May, I did asset management. June, I did compliance. July, corporate governance. And now I'm doing risk. Next month, and I'll do innovation management, and I'll probably even get a guest speaker to join me as we do this. So thank you very much for your time, everybody. The pleasure has been completely mine. Let me go and look at the questions very quickly, as we will be looking. The questions might completely overwhelm me because I have too many experts and great people on the call. So let me hope that I know enough to be able to. Okay, so YouTube channel. Yes, okay, I think somebody has answered that. The person at the background, please. Okay, good. Well, you have the slides. I'll think about it, Johnson. Yes, you will have the slides, actually. So if somebody created Google for you and I to use, I'm sure I can give you slides that I've also created. It's not a problem at all. I will give you. I will share the slides with everybody that is here. Good. I think, Mary, I've answered that. Issues are things that have transpired already or things that have transpired that are happening right now so that you can address it on a daily basis or weekly basis. Risk is something usually that is upfront. It has not yet happened. It's probably 2, 3, 4, 6 months, maybe even 1 year ahead of time. But you also need to keep your eyes on them so that they don't materialize. So it's like one is a danger that has happened, and the other one is danger that might happen, but you're trying to ensure that it does not. When you say I should demonstrate, I'd shown a couple of risk dashboards at the beginning of this meeting, so I will show that. When you talk about banking, I don't know what you mean by banking, but I mean, this risk management applies everywhere, and I do have a list of risk management areas. I'll probably put it up in 1 second as it is. And those things apply. They apply to you irrespective of your line of work, irrespective of your industry. Everything that I've said today applies. A whole lot to say about assessment of opportunities. How do we identify a threat? No, I said a lot about threats too. Actually, a lot of those things are, I mean, it's the same model. It just depends on how you think about it. So either you're thinking about something that is evil or negative that is about to materialize, or you're talking about something that you want to look at in the future. Yeah, somebody mentioned here. So yeah, Mr. Yemi, thank you very much. It says ROCC risk matrix is a good one to adopt depending on your maturity. Can also dash your dashboard. Yeah, so you can create all your dashboards from Power BI and things like that. So he's mentioned something called the ROCC risk matrix. He has mentioned that. So thank you very much for that. Oh yeah, but oh yes, MR is the elder brother. MR is the elder brother of 31,000. Absolutely, without a doubt at all. It's indeed the elder brother. It provides all the answers to how 31,000 should be appropriately adopted. As I said, there's an organization that I've worked with that has done that and done it appropriately. How do you differentiate potential events that make up risk versus the ones that, once again, you use time. Time is the key thing. So that's where the concept of risk proximity comes into play. Are we together? That is where the concept of risk proximity comes into play. The concept of risk proximity really is about time, the nearness. So if the thing is in the past, or it is this week, it has materialized yesterday, 2 weeks ago, 1 year ago, then it's an issue. But if the thing is going to happen in October, then it's not an issue. Well, it could be depending on your proximity. So if your proximity is for risk is 6 and above, then October is an issue because October is too near. So that concept of proximity, once again, is not something a lot of people know anything about, and it's something that during a deep training we can look at, we can talk about, and we can explore appropriately as it is. So, but it's a deep conversation around what exactly does what does proximity mean, and how will your own organization adopt proximity? Once again, everybody's proximity is going to be different. There is no organization that can adopt exactly the same proximity. Everybody's going to have their own proximity, and everybody's going to have to interpret that. Cyber risk. Oh, yes. Go and look at NIST. NIST has got a couple of NIST documents. First, go and look at the new NIST CSF 2.0. In fact, it's still in draft form. It's brilliant. It will help you significantly with regards to cyber risks. There's also 837, the NIST 837 will also help you significantly with regards to cyber risk in itself. And for KRIs, are there repositories? Yes, I can tell you. Mary, these are your questions. Mary Roberts, these your questions are very deep, but very good. I can tell you, yes, there are. There's a repository for KRIs. The repository is a decent one you will find inside of COBIT. You know, COBIT has got I've forgotten the number now. It's got a risk management. It's called, we used to call it processes, but now it's called objective REST. There's that documentation inside of there's a process inside of COBIT that you will find that particular thing with regards to risk. Actually, there are 2 of them. So you should go look at COBIT EDM03 and EDM03 and APO12 inside of COBIT. if you have the full COVID documentation, you will find a lot of KRIs in there, so you will have that. Mr. Yinka says I have to call him today. All right, so I think I've answered all the questions in my tiny little way. Once again, I'm very mindful of the time for everybody that is in here. So once again, thank you very much. I couldn't have said everything that I possibly know to say or plan to say within this. Otherwise, Miwa will arrest me, will tell me that the whole training itself has been that it has been done. So, but yeah, the idea was to ensure that people will leave this place and you will all go back to each of your organizations and really start to, drive much more effective risk management within each of your own organizations as it is. So